Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. My guest today is Emma Churchman. She is a nationally certified trauma chaplain, executive mentor, and leadership consultant. She is also the author of a wonderful book that just came out called Unshattered. So, welcome, Emma. How are you?
I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Let's just get started with your story. How was your life before um, your breakthrough and came through, and all of the work that you are doing now to help others who also have gone through similar experiences as you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm mentoring and coaching these days on trauma recovery.
Uh,
So that's the context. I have a book, you can see right behind me the banner for it, Unshattered: Surviving My Mother's 123 Personalities and Transforming a Legacy of Abuse. And I wrote this book for a variety of reasons, but what really was kind of the last straw that had me say, we need to talk about things that happen behind closed doors is when my third brother died by suicide a year
mm,
ago, last October. And
so
I thought,
sorry.
yeah, thank you. I thought we can't keep silent anymore. So this is a story about horrific abuse, childhood abuse, but it's also a story about resilience,
Mhm.
how the same people who have the same experiences can make very different choices
Yes.
about what to do in their lives. And for me, I did not choose the path of mental illness or addiction or suicide. Our father also died by suicide. I chose the path of healing and transformation. And I'm teaching about that because I think when we look at what's happening in our world today, there are catastrophic disasters, national natural disasters that have increased by 300% in the past decade. There are wars breaking out. There are political divisions. There are economic divisions. Just look at politically what's happening here in the US right now. And we need to figure out how to become resilient in the moment, right? This idea that we can spend a decade hanging out on a therapist couch feeling our feelings before we can recover is over. We've got to figure out how, in the moment, we are going to not only survive, but learn how to thrive in the face of adversity. So, the book, which is a memoir, is the background of how I became a resilient being and how what I am teaching now in my trauma recovery methodology.
Amazing. It's so important. Everything you're saying. I mean, there's nothing more than the now. It's just the now. And we have been going through so many different things of like going, like you said, like the therapist for 10 years and like nothing gets changed. And how do we have that little bit of joy, or how do we move on in the moment? Because that's all we really have.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I learned that through my family, but also through Hurricane Helene, which
Mhm.
happened about 13 months ago here in Western North Carolina, where our entire community was devastated. Just houses gone, roads gone. We had no power, no infrastructure for months. And I ran my business online, right? And I couldn't
Mhm.
there was no internet, there was no power. I couldn't run my business. So I had to figure out, who am I going to be in the midst of this catastrophic event? And I decided I would be the person who would be resilient. And I ended up on day 4 after the hurricane. I hiked 3 miles down our mountain. We live at the top of a mountain. I had to bushwhack because there were no roads anymore. It was all mudslides and trees down. 3 miles down to the fire station, and I found the fire chief and I said, I'm trained as a trauma chaplain. How can I help? And he said, here's your first case. We just had a 2-year-old who unfortunately was killed in un, in an accidental gun shooting. And the
Wow.
family is traumatized. Please go attend to them. So that was just, trauma on top of trauma. So looking at how can you grieve? How can you mourn? How can you deal with your own stuff while you are also attending to others? And that's why I'm teaching that it's possible to heal trauma in real time because our world needs it, right?
What made you decide to go ahead and have that strength to give your services during a time of chaos and when nothing was available and so many people looking for help? What what inside you come happen for you to say, okay, I'm just going to go and do what I can do best?
Yeah. I ended up having a really challenging conversation with my husband, Jeff, who lived through Hurricane Katrina.
Mm,
So, that was in August 2005, and we've all seen the movie coverage, the documentaries that have come out on the 20th anniversary, just horrendous devastation. And he had to keep his business going in the middle of that and attend to his family. This is a second marriage for him. And he looked at me as I was saying, I don't want to do this, right? My brother Alex had just died by suicide 6 weeks earlier.
mm,
And I was still grieving that loss. And I was saying, I don't want to do this. And Jeff looked at me and said, there is no other available option than to be present and to figure out how to help because we are in this for the long haul. So put your big girl pants on and let's see what we can do. And that was
wow,
really, really important for me to hear that.
that's amazing. That clarity and
Yeah.
support from his side. Amazing. So what that you got started like that, helping the families, and how how were you able to move through? Were you able to help a lot more people? Like, how did that go for you?
Yeah, I think being present and recognizing what I was capable of.
Hmm.
I teach this 4 phase trauma recovery methodology, and the first phase is rescue. And that's initially the phase we were in, where we're just trying to get food and water and shelter and attend to our basic needs. So I started with, do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have shelter? Let me help you stabilize and make sure that you've got your basic needs attended to, as we were also trying to get our basic needs attended to, right? We couldn't get to a grocery store. We had to figure out how to get food.
Hmm.
And then I kind of moved through those phases with other people. So it wasn't that I was ignoring my own traumatic response, my own symptoms. It was that I was viscerally aware of them, and that helped me to be aware of what might be going on for other people when they were feeling anxious or angry, or if they kept repeating their same stories of what happened on the day of the
Hmm.
hurricane, or if they weren't sleeping or were depressed or any of that. I was able to understand that viscerally and say, okay, you've got the food, you've got the shelter, you've got the water now. Now we're going to practice breathing because the body's so smart. And you know this.
Hmm.
When we can get present in our bodies, a lot more is possible for us.
Yeah, for sure. Anxiety, once we become anxious, it's like I can't hold my breath and I can't think and nothing works out and we just keep going down that spiral of chaos and I don't know what to do. And the breath, it's one of the most basic things that's available to all of us that we can just calm down, center again, and see what the next thing we need to do.
Exactly.
I love that. I feel, and you mentioned this about how we're having so many more catastrophic things happening uh, in the last 10 years. It just keeps adding up, and more people are going through traumas like this, where all of a sudden they're like, their world is upside down, and now we are dependent on neighbors, maybe strangers who are walking around to get through this. It feels like this is such an important conversation right now to give people a how to in case something they seem to find themselves in a place of like I don't know what to do and it's like okay, what is the next thing I need right now?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I wrote my first book that came out earlier this year, The Deep End of Hope in the Wake of Hurricane Helene,
Hmm.
because I live in a very, what could be politically divisive area. I live in rural Appalachia, but I'm not from Appalachia. I'm an implant, as are many of my neighbors. But what was so cool after the hurricane is that, and we were coming up on an election cycle, right? The
Hmm.
presidential election was 2 months, less than 2 months away. No one cared, right? What people cared about was, is my neighbor still alive and what do they need and how can I help? And that it was just this amazing experience for probably the first 30 days where we all came together and set aside political differences, socioeconomic differences, cultural differences, and really looked for what is that common connection that's going to help all of us move through this.
I mean, this is the same thing that happened when 9/11 hit.
Yes.
I saw in the news like people like didn't have a way to get home and cars driving and then just picking up strangers and nobody cared what race, what color, what sex, and nothing. It was just let's help each other to the next thing.
Yes. And what could be possible if a disaster didn't have to happen in
Hmm.
order for that kind of connection to happen?
Oh, yes, chills on that. I mean, that's what we want to get to, right?
Yeah.
Just releasing all of the hate and the pointing fingers and separation from each other and get to like, what can we be as a people together, as a neighbor, allowing ourselves to have our differences, but still care for each other.
Yes.
What a
Exactly.
beautiful thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about what you're doing now, how you're helping people.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so it was interesting coming out of this book being published about the hurricane. I ended up getting into disaster relief in ways I hadn't expected for my company. I am a leadership consultant. I am an executive mentor. I've been doing that for 27 years. But this space of helping companies and organizations and people navigate this level of crisis is the direction my business is moving in. And I've also developed a trauma recovery certification program in the meantime, because I had a lot of people like you come up to me and say, how the heck did you do that? How did you grieve your brother Alex dying and then the hurricane? And then my brother Bryce died by suicide 2 weeks after the hurricane. Like, and you were helping people as a trauma chaplain. How did you do that? And I'm not a superhero, right? I wasn't ignoring my emotions or ignoring my pain in order to serve others. I didn't have kind of this superior attitude. I just decided I was going to be fully present for what was going on. And I was going to do my best to attend to what was going on for me and heal while I was accompanying other people. And that's why that certification program was born. That's for coaches and healers and practitioners and even disaster aid workers who want to have tools to help other people and themselves heal in real time.
It feels also like, let's say, a new mother, where, she doesn't know what it's like to be a mom, and then all of a sudden there's this baby, and you're 24/7 taking care of that child. And many mothers they just forget about themselves. They don't take care of themselves because all of their attention is on this baby. Um, and I was just feeling that when you were talking about putting all of the things that you were going through to be present, because that's I think that's the superpower that you said you're not a superhero, but I'm like, yes, she is. It's like that's your superpower, is being able to be in the present, help whatever needs to be to help in the moment, and at the same time, as you said, healing as you're working, as you're helping others. How exactly did you do that? You're busy, you're present, you're keeping yourself busy with the chaos that's going on in front of you. And how are you healing at the same time?
Yeah. Well, there are a number of tools that I use that I teach now. So let me give you a really just basic tool that's super helpful in any situation where you're noticing yourself getting anxious, getting overwhelmed, just kind of spiraling out. And this is a common tool, but it's very effective if you cannot get grounded in your body. So, and I want you to do this with me if you're willing.
Of course.
Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is to name 5 things that you can see. So just call them out. 5 things
Okay.
you
I
can see
see my
around you.
microphone, my mug of tea, my computer, my bottle of water, and my light ring.
Okay, beautiful. Now, 4 things that you can touch right now.
Okay, I can touch my mug and the table and the computer and my phone and a tissue.
Wonderful. 3 things that you can hear.
I can hear your voice and I can hear the rain outside and I can hear my dog sleeping.
Wonderful. 2 things you can smell.
I can definitely smell my tea and I can smell my sage because I just saged the room.
I love that. And 1 thing you can taste.
Hmm. I can taste the leftover of the tea in my mouth.
Mhm. Wonderful. Now just check in with your body. How are you feeling right now as opposed to 5 minutes ago?
I feel a little bit more centered and calm, more present actually.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty cool. And that took maybe a minute to do.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love the exercise. I love how you showed us like right here because yeah, it does force us to be present when we're thinking of other senses and the things that the questions that you ask.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's something you can do while you're on a Zoom call. It's something you can do. What I did when I was down at the fire part department attending to people, you can do it in the moment when other things are going on.
Yeah, because when we're anxious or upset or we don't know what to do, we are worrying about the future.
Yeah,
How are we going to, when is it, how is it, what's up? All these things are like out there. They're not here in front of
yeah.
us.
Yeah, we're worried about the future
Yep.
or we're rehashing the past,
Yes.
not being present in the moment. And I imagine you teach this that the frequency that you're holding in any given moment has a profound impact on what happens next. So if you're
Yes.
erratic, chaotic, worried, guess what's going to happen next? You're going to get more chaos and worry and that sense of destabilization. But if you're present and grounded, what's going to happen next is going to be very different, right? It's you're going to be opening up to new possibilities that
Hmm.
perhaps were not available to you before because you were too busy worrying about
Worrying.
for the past. Yeah.
I just saw this, just read this study. Well, it was a short part of the study, and I did not read the whole study. But they put two beautiful cars, one in a really challenging neighborhood, with the hood open, and another one in a very affluent neighborhood. And the one in the challenging neighborhood disappeared. It was completely taken apart, like everything removed within hours. And the other one stood still for a week. As a matter of fact, that person actually put the hood down at one point, and there it was, like perfect. And so after a week, somebody from the study went and they just smashed the window, the front window, to see, what would happen. And then after that, everybody started doing things to this car and destroying it until it was also completely taken apart. And the basis of the study was that chaos brings more chaos.
Mm.
And when there's order, there's order. So because nothing was disorderly in the other neighborhood, nobody was doing anything to the car. But as soon as there was a little bit of chaos there, like something that's not supposed to happen, so to speak, then everybody else went and chipped into that. So it feels like what you're saying is pretty much the same. Everybody's in this chaotic space and nobody knows what to do. And you come in with this force of grounding, and here I am. This is order. And now that energy is able to be amplified to help the people around you. And then, of course,
Yeah.
that multiplies. Amazing.
Yeah, Valeria, that's exactly what it is.
I love that. And it's so simple, yet it's something that we need to talk about so that people are aware of it. Like, hey, I can be the grounded person when I see something that's going on that's chaotic.
Right. Yeah, but what that requires is
Hmm.
taking 100% responsibility for yourself and your actions. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
How do you help people get to that?
Well, I don't think you can force anyone.
Of course,
If
yes.
someone is really committed to being a victim, you can't force them to think a different way, but you can model what's possible, right?
Hmm.
You can be the person who chooses to be calm and centered and grounded. You can be the person who chooses to take 100% responsibility and not blame anyone else for what's happening or not happening.
Yeah, I also love the teaching of the being present, that how you're modeling it is that it's just facts. It's not like what I think or what I wish or what it's just this is the facts. You need water, you need sleep, you need food. Like, it's very, very neutral.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing now, or and in helping people. And I do want to hear more about your books as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, could I share a free gift with your audience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be
Okay.
lovely.
So my trauma certification program has three levels.
Hmm.
And the first level is where you learn how to heal your own trauma. And I think that's really important that you address your own stuff before you go forward and help others. And for a limited time, I'm offering that level one for free. So it's a 28-day online course. It's got a 15-minute exercise you do every day. It's very easy. There's some writing prompts and you learn different ways to attend to your own trauma and go through that healing process. So if anyone's interested, you can go to emmachurchman.com/trauma and get started for free.
Amazing. So generous. And I love that because you're right. We do need to take care of ourselves before we go on to trying to help others.
Right.
And that feels perfect. Perfect. Like, just if everybody could just do that one beautiful gift that you're giving, then, we might not need to help others.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you get it.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for that. Oh, okay. And now, tell me a little bit more about, do you want to tell me a bit more about your book that
Sure.
just came out?
Yeah, Unshattered. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So, I, when I first started talking with my publisher about the first book, Helene, my publisher found me because I was doing these daily posts about what was happening with the hurricane. And what I was sharing was radically different than what the media was presenting about the hurricane. So she started following me, and people started saying, you should write a book about this. And I thought, that's great. I don't have power, right? So, like, in terms of priorities, that's not super high right now. But sure, who knows a publisher? And she reached out and said, we would acquire this book. And I thought, I don't know what that means. And so I called her up and I said, I don't know what that means. She said, we'll pay for everything, right? We'll pay for the editing and the print and design and the distribution and the marketing. We'll handle it all. And I said, oh my God, that's amazing. And she said, as part of that book, you should really tell your own story of your traumatic upbringing. And I said, oh no, I'm already writing another book about that. And she said, I kid you not, this is a 15-minute conversation. She said, we'll acquire that book too. And I thought, oh, I guess I'm going public with this, right? And this was less than less than 2 weeks after my brother Bryce had died. So the timing was just very fortuitous. And so I really wanted to look at how trauma develops in a lineage in a family. So in the book, I go back to my great great grandmother, which is where the abuse began, as far back as I'm aware of it. And I talk about how that abuse kind of trickled down through my maternal lineage from my great great grandmother to great grandmother to grandmother to mother to me, and what causes abuse to continue in a family. that generational trauma. And then I also look at what I believe caused my father and each of my brothers to die by suicide. And then I really tried to break down the choices and decisions that I made that were different than the choices and decisions they made, that had me get on a path of healing. Because that's often the question. How do you actually heal? What does that actually look like? So the journey is the first 50 years of my life with the backstory of my mother's alternate personalities, of my brothers and I, but also into adulthood, how I chose to change and grow and evolve.
Um, Amazing. I was feeling into what you were saying with the generational trauma that you uncovered and how it affected you. And the question that came through was when it came to your brothers, the brother who took his own life, was there any anger towards him for doing that, or any feelings of like, because this is what most people who have a loved one who has taken the life goes through, is of guilt, like, oh, I could have done something. Do you have any of that, and how did you move from there?
Yeah, I do have some of that. But between my father dying in 1998 and my first brother dying in 2021, I worked as a trauma chaplain in a couple of different hospitals. And when you're a trauma chaplain, you get the suicide cases. So people who have attempted suicide but are still alive, or people who have attempted suicide and they end up dying in the hospital. So attending to them and being able to ask them, like there was this one man who retired, and within 3 months of retiring, he decided that he no longer had any purpose. And the way he decided to deal with no longer having any purpose was to attempt to shoot himself in the head. But the way the bullet went into his brain, it didn't hit anything. Um, that kept him from being able to be alert and communicative, which is kind of phenomenal. So I was able to have this conversation with he and his wife where I said, what happened? Like, did you actually want to die? And he said, no, I just didn't know what that I was loved or that I was wanted or that I was needed. Now that I was no longer working, I felt like the purpose of my existence was gone. And that was a really powerful conversation to have with someone who thought they wanted to die, but really they just didn't know how to exist without that predetermined identity that he had had for 45 years. So I had conversations like that that were informing me when my brothers began dying by suicide. I've had people say to me, because I've talked about my brothers giving up, I've had people say to me, you don't understand, Emma, suicide is a mental illness. People don't give up. It's just a mental illness. I think that could be true for some people who are suicidal. I don't think that was true for my brothers. I think each of my brothers intentionally gave up. They did not want to be alive. My brother Alex, when he was 6 years old, became suicidal for the first time. So just to put that in perspective, things
Wow.
were so horrendous in our household that he did not want to be alive anymore. It took him until the age of 41 to die by suicide, right? So he wrestled with it for a number of years, but I knew from the time that he was very young that he did not want to be alive. My brother Bryce became a full-blown drug addict when he was 12 years old and had his first overdose and almost died. I knew from that time that he did not want to be alive. It took until he was 48 to die. There are some people who do not want to live in this world. And I have had to come to a place where I'm okay with that, right? I don't feel guilt around could I have done more because I did the best that I could with them in the time when I was close with them. And they communicated to me very clearly that they didn't want to be alive. So, this is a very touchy subject, suicide. It's very stigmatized. People have lots of opinions about it. If I'm saying something now that's upsetting to anyone in your audience, I apologize for that. But this is my lived experience helping dozens of people through that suicide journey and having had four of my immediate family members die by suicide. I think sometimes people just don't want to be alive.
Yeah. I had well, my father's best friend took his life, and I remember my father being very angry at him. And this is why the question came up with the anger part, like, how come he didn't come to me? We didn't say, like, because this one was a type of suicide where at least my father was not aware that there was anything wrong.
Okay.
So that's where the anger comes through. And then his sister has kept this heaviness of guilt. And he's passed more than 20, 25 years now, still till today. I don't know her relationship or if she knew anything or about him. But that's why the question came through, like, is this something that affected you? How did you move through? But it's because I have that part to of reference
Yeah.
to to see, like, how can people move through that afterwards. But I feel that what you're saying, like, yes, some people just don't want to be here. I feel that is true even in my work. Like, I can see, like, that part happening of I don't want to be here in the moment. And I also know from other people, from other survivors' story, that I don't want to be here in the moment. I'm about to take my life out or take myself out of life and then failing. And then as they're failing or as they're doing it, having that remorse, like, oh no, I actually don't want to go.
Right. Right. Which is wonderful, right? For
Hmm.
there to be hope and possibility after a suicide attempt.
It's almost like the last part of, like, the last draw of, like, this is what I thought I wanted, and now that I'm doing it, I'm like, wait, is that really what I want?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people who go through that experience themselves. It's just like suicide is something that is out there, and it feels like I don't know how else to escape my life,
Right.
the trauma,
Right.
and that's like the only thing that they can think of as a solution for themselves in the moment. But then maybe feeling like, oh yeah, actually, maybe there is another way, and you're
Right.
bringing another way.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what? Life is hard.
Yeah.
We're all always going through challenges,
Hmm.
but we have to decide who we're going to be in the face of challenges. Are we going to be the person who lets life take us over or not?
Yeah. And I always say it's okay to feel it, to feel the anger, the fear, the chaos, the anxiety, but just feel it for a little bit and then go back to being present. Like, okay, now what do I do? What's the next step?
Yeah, because I don't know if this is part of your teaching, but part of my teaching is that the universe,
Hmm.
God, higher power, whatever language you use, wants abundance for us. The universe is always for more life. And it's our opportunity to connect with that and to get into that flow and access that possibility.
Do you feel that you had an opening, a deeper opening into that type of awareness with the traumas that you have gone through?
Yeah, I did. After my father died, I was 24 years old. I got the call. I ended up handling his estate and his death. About a year later, I stopped functioning. I could not get out of bed for 6 months because I was grieving my father's death and just trying to figure out who am I in the world right now with someone who's supposed to love me who intentionally ended
Hmm.
his life. And I'm Quaker, so I went to a Quaker meeting every Sunday, and my prayer went like this: Where the fuck are you, God? This is my prayer for 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, I started having conversations with God. And I think that's part of what really helped pull me through to this point that eventually had me go to seminary and become a chaplain and do all of that because I felt a connection with something greater than myself.
What kept you going for 6 months when you're asking, where are you? And no answers.
Um, I think it just didn't occur to me to
Mhm.
die, right? That wasn't an available option to me. I just didn't know how to move through. So I just kept asking until I got some answers.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean going in that direction. I meant like what kept you going and continuing to ask and not get an answer. Like, so many of us, like even with meditation, like, oh, I'll do the meditation and I should feel, oh, and nothing happens, and then I just give up because it doesn't work, right? But um,
Right.
that's what I mean.
Yes. Oh, that people want immediate answers.
Yes, yes. Like what kept you going for 6 months, asking the same question and going and continuing with the faith, but then not receiving an answer until 6 months later.
Yeah. That's a fantastic question. And honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I cannot, I can't remember anything beyond asking the question.
Maybe it's because you were just being present.
Yeah,
Yeah. Present
it
in the
could be.
moment. Got it. I didn't get it. Fine.
Yep.
Amazing. Is there anything else, Emma, that you would like to share that I haven't asked you or we haven't gone into that direction?
No, you've asked such great questions. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. It's just been a very powerful story that you have, and I just love it. I'm gonna put all of your links for people to get in touch with you, get your book, get the freebie on the notes if you didn't get it while we were talking. But you can also let us know where to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my books are available anywhere online books are sold, Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble in Canada, Indigo Books or Chapters, online at Target and Walmart, really anywhere. And then you can find me at emmachurchman.com, or I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Oh, this is just coming through as you were speaking about your book, um, and how that book deal happened for you.
Mhm.
Um, I love that story. I just love that story because so many people are stuck in the how.
Yeah,
How could I do that? I don't have the money to do what it's always about the money, right? Well, you had no electricity to write the book, and then you had, how are you going to fund it? And then you were just doing what you were doing. You were just
right.
sharing what you wanted to share. No one was telling you, hey, do this, and then you're going to get a book deal. You were just doing it. And then the
Right.
universe brought to you the opportunity, and then you took it.
Yeah, exactly. Because what God said to me, and this was the morning of the hurricane, right?
Mhm.
Trees are falling down, mudslides are happening all around us. And I'm asking God, okay, what do I do? And what God said was start writing down your story. And I thought, aren't you supposed to say something like, go check on your neighbors, make sure your, loved ones are okay? But no, it was go write down what's happening. And so I just did that every single day, no matter what. And then
Wow.
when the publisher said, we want to acquire your book, I just said, yes, I will figure out how to be able to write a book without power. I'll figure it out. I will take that next step. And it's that level of faithfulness in
Yes.
not knowing exactly how things are all going to work out, but saying yes to that next step, even when it makes no logical sense. That is the ultimate practice of manifestation.
I love it. You just summed it up so beautifully because, yes, you can have the voice, you can have the thought, if you wanted to call it that, if you're not aware of like it could be something other than, but like, okay, I'm gonna start doing it. It makes no sense, but I'm gonna do it. And it's that taking action. You took action, and then after you took action, You got the opportunity and you took action, like, yes. And also how fast it worked, how fast it moved.
Yeah.
Because it's always really when it's aligned for you, when it's something otherworldly for you that's coming, it always happens so seamlessly, so easy, and so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. When you get out of the way, right? And
Yes.
stop bringing your ego and your agenda to the conversation.
Yes. I love that. And so many of us go through this opening or awareness when something tragic happens in our lives. Do
Mhm.
you feel do you feel that perhaps all of this increased amount of um, tragedies that are happening globally are part of how it's helping people become more aware
Yeah,
and
100%. Yeah,
break?
for sure, we're in the midst of a spiritual awakening right now. And people who are not ready to awaken, I think, are checking out. For example, with my brothers, or even we saw this. I'm going to get a little political here. Again, this may piss some people off, but this is just my opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion. I think some people checked out during COVID. Think some people are checking out now during the increased natural disasters because we need more of us waking up and being more connected and more on this path of collective healing. That is what our planet needs right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And there's a lot of people who are leaving, and I feel they're leaving for several reasons. Some of them might be, they just don't want to deal with what's happening and what's being dealt in the world, and some of them are doing it to help their family members and their circle of friends to become more aware and to have that wake up call, so to speak. Yes, this might be very controversial. I
Yeah,
can feel it, but yeah, I do feel the same. And also, it's almost like it helps us who are still here move faster towards the
yeah.
the awareness and the enlightenment or whatever you want to call it.
100%. And I'm really excited to see what the next couple of decades has for us in store.
I'm excited to see what the next year has in store. It feels like this year is like woof, and next
Yes,
year is going to be even more crazy and amazing at the same time.
exactly. Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this. More people need to be having these types of conversations.
Yeah, for sure. It just came through. I was like, wait a second, I know we're about to close up, but this is coming through, and let me bring
Yes,
it up.
it's good. It's good.
It is good. Well, thank you so much, Emma, for being here, for sharing your story, your tenacity and resilience to be able to move through and help so many people in a time of turmoil for them. So thank you for sharing your very intimate story. And I'm hoping everybody will go and get that freebie that you are giving us. Thank you so much again for that, and get your book and get deeper into the conversation.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
Thank you.